some stuff down.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds good. All right. So I'll drop this in later on too. You're gonna hear all the asinine things that I say over and over again. Okay, so trimming means that we're gonna cut some of this clay off of there. I ask you to leave extra clay down there because that's what you need to have to make the foot, right? So getting this on center, like there, you can like go scoot and scoot. You can do that, but it takes a hell of a lot of time. And I want you to learn this other way. And here's the other way. You get the wheel going and you can see how this is close and far and close and far. It's easier to see far away, isn't it? Right? So what I do is I just bop this at, I don't know, like 9 o'clock, 10-ish or whatever. And I can get it pretty damn close, just like that, right? I'm not really thinking about, bopping it very much. I'm just kind of hitting it and watching for when it gets centered, right? If it gets really, really close, back it off and start again, because you can't put enough energy into whacking it without knocking it farther off center. When it's really, really close, just pull it out and start again. This is one of those things that you want to do with some degree of confidence. So what I'm looking at is this edge here, like this outer edge. That's what I'm concentrating on. And my mind photoshops in the little dents, right, and makes that smooth, and sort of is reading it to know when it's centered based on that little edge there. Okay? Okay, so if your edge is all jagged and crinkly and stuff, just break some of that off, so that you have something easier to look at, right? Okay, next thing. A couple of minutes ago, I came back here and put a couple of pieces of clay on the plaster so it'll dry out a little more. It's important for your hold down clay to be a little firmer than the pot, because if you have to, push cutting into it, you can sort of knock it off center again. But you'll get more centering practice that way, I suppose. Okay, so we're taking some clay, and now for a while I will keep this clay separate in plastic, because I know it's a little bit harder and it's my hold down clay, right? So you want to have a little bit for that. So you hold the thing while you put the clay down. If you hold it, you can feel it if it slips. And if it slips, obviously, go back to step one, right? I should write this down sometime. Okay, so here we are. We're gonna get it in like 3. All right, so really gushing it down so that it's attached well to the wheel head. I'm using big pieces of clay here. I want it to be simple for now. You can use smaller and smaller pieces to hold it down, or even a couple other tricks that I'll show you later on, but for now you're just worried about not having your pot go flying. Okay, and then we kind of double check there, and it's still in the land of trimmable. Okay, so the tool you're going to use is this or one much like it. Of course, it would have been so cool if there would have been one right there, and I could just, but there are shorter versions of this, but this is the shape that you want, okay? In your tool kits, there was one with 2 ends on it. We don't really use that so much, okay? Okay, so we get this thing going around fairly fast, and what I'm going to start with, now this is another thing where there's a ton of directions. That's why I'm going to drop this on the WebEx feed. And I want to check with all of you before you leave today to make sure that you're on that, if you're not already, okay? Okay, so I've got this in my right hand, and oftentimes my left hand is just touching this, just barely touching it, right? And I'm going to take the fat part and go to the corner of it, right? Like where it transitions from kind of straight to circle, I'm going to try and grab it right in between. And I'm going to get the clay and start pulling it down to create a wall. Right? See how that wall is emerging there? Mm-hmm. That's because I'm not letting my hand get pushed away. In fact, I'm going in a little tiny bit. Right? So at first, when you start doing this, the clay will want to push you away or suck you in or whatever. You got to try and remain stable. And I'm almost always connecting to arms somehow. Like I'll have a thumb touching or something else. You'll always see me making that connection because that makes the symmetry and stronger, right? Okay, so you're making the big wall there, pulling that clay downward. And then when you get down to where you're starting to worry that the bowl is too thin there, then you move over and use the wide flat part of the tool, okay, to address the bowl shape. Right? And we pull some of that clay down. Okay? So every time you make a bowl and you're going to trim it, like before you stick it down, put your hand on the inside and feel it. Feel how thick the bottom is. Feel what shape the bottom is. I make pretty much the same kind of bowl just by default, you know. So I have a good idea of where I'm at. Every once in a while I'll trim through one in a demonstration and it's hilarious. Hopefully it won't be today. Anyhow, so I know there's still some more clay in there. So first thing, I'm going to take and clean up the outside of this by holding this tool still in stab mode. Everything I've done so far, cutting it here, I'm holding the tool that direction. Okay? So a little bit of cleanup right there. You see how that's more smooth now? And now I'm going to dig in a little bit deeper because I think I have more clay there. And then I'm going to peel that down the side. Those unsightly lines I kind of want to get rid of, so I'm going to like spread it with the wider part of the tool there a little bit. And that's pretty good for now. Okay? Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the inside. And we go from stab mode into motorcycle throttle mode. Right? We, instead of using the wide end, we will be using the skinny end. We're going to work at 3 o'clock. Right? So I'm going to drop the end of the tool here. And for those of you that have a tough time reversing these, like really force yourself to understand it from your perspective. Like the tool, the small part is facing away from me so it can drag on that little bottom edge there. Okay, okay, so we get the wheel going. Fast is good with trimming. So we get that, we start it in the center, and then we work our way out to a spot there. And you get that started, and you just never go too far. You know, like normally what I do is show you guys to make a do not cross line. So you can start with that instead. I just messed up the steps there. But you make a line there so that you know that there's a spot you never go past, because you'll just cut off your foot, which is no good. Right? So then we're going back to the center because I know there's still more clay there. And I'm pulling it out. I'm getting rid of it. Right? And I'm just kind of mining that clay out until I get a sense that it's a thickness that it should be. Okay? So the thickness that it should be is like the natural extension of the curve from the bottom part of the bowl. Like you can kind of visualize this without that clump of clay, right? So this should be a little higher, but not very much, right? Okay, so we're going to clean this up a little bit more. I'm going to hold the tool in stab mode to clean the inside of the wall, just like we hold it in stab mode to clean the outside of the wall, right? A lot of stabby. And then there are lines in here, and you are welcome to carve bitchin' swirly lines in there. Whatever, you have fun with it. It's cool. Mm-hmm. But we want it to be the same thickness as everything else, you know. But if we're making it flat, we hold the tool kind of in between stab and motorcycle throttle and drop the flat part of the tool in here, and that's how we get rid of the rings on the inside. You will constantly be picking pieces of clay off of this thing. If it builds up and you don't do anything about it, as the wheel goes around, you'll hook on it and make dents and just like make it, you know, less sightly. Okay? Okay, so I'm sure that I have more clay in here, so I'm just going to do all the things I just told you again, real quick, okay? To try and get it a little neater. Okay? So I'm down at the bottom there, and I'm pulling it downward. And you can kind of see how the bowl shape is emerging a little more nice there, right? So we're trying to get rid of that. And because we got that undercut now, we know we can take away some more from the outside in stab mode, of course. I'm just going to take that little piece of clay off of there. That's super annoying, right? And so now that this is lower, I got to go inside and get some more from the inside. So motorcycle throttle, and then we're starting at the middle, and we're working our way out again. Get rid of that, and then we're cleaning the inside, and then cleaning the inside halfway through. Okay, and then the kind of the last thing is cleaning up the foot here. One thing I want you to do is go to the angle or the edge here with the tool at an angle so that you create kind of a slant there, right? What that does is it differentiates your pot from the table that it's sitting on. It just makes a little shadow down there that's like visual punctuation or something, you know? So, right, and then we can clean up the top a little bit. Sometimes people like to get their finger a tiny bit wet and drag it across here to make it a little nicer of a foot so it doesn't scratch up the furniture, you know? And that is how you trim, right? So all your bowls have to be trimmed like this. I wrote that in my syllabus because some guy once was like, I made all the bowls, you didn't say they had to be trimmed. I'd said it like a million times, but it wasn't in paper. Anyway, so yeah, everybody can be a jerk, you know? Right, so there's the idea. You can see the little shadow that I was talking about down there. And we got all the extra clay off. Well, there's a tiny bit left there, but got most of it. So that's where we're supposed to do this. So let's do a thing that we can clean our hands after doing. Okay, I'm going to pass this around. And remember, we got each other's cooties, so we'll get some sanitizer afterward. But it's an important thing, okay? So you'll have to stop looking at your phone for a minute. Take that and feel it. And you kind of get a sense of where the weight is, you know? Right? So your brain goes to the spot that's kind of the heaviest when you're holding these things. When this one gets...
I'm just praying for somebody to drop it.
Oh, that's okay. I can make lots of bowls. So you can feel that one's a little heavier, and your brain kind of goes there. Right? So what I'll expect you guys to do is to get almost all the extra clay off of there. So it's essentially just a ring sitting on a dome.
This is what our clay feels like?
That hasn't been fired yet.
Oh, this is before.
Yeah, it's bone dry, but not, fired. Okay, so you kind of get a sense that it should be reasonably light,
Yeah.
and your brain doesn't go, oh my God, it's so heavy on the bone. So, but you'll make pots like that at first. So I'm telling you what the goal is eventually, with the knowledge that you have to go through all the phases. Okay?
This is before it gets glazed.
This has to be fired the first
Fire.
time, and then it gets glazed, and then it gets glaze fired. Yep. Okay, so anytime you guys want to see me trim another one, just let me know. We can give that a whirl. And we'll go from there, okay?
And we don't have to make like all 20 bowls before we start trimming, so we should start trimming.
No,
what we're doing.
not at all. You guys remember how we have to manage dryness?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that one that you handled is like the perfect wetness for
Yeah.
carving. If it gets all the way dry like this, it's done. Right?
Mhm.
So it just ruins the tools to kind of lay through there and stuff, so don't do that. Right? So that's kind of what we're looking for. We're looking for that leather hard and trim that. Okay? Remember to separate some of your hard clay for your hold down clay, and that's what you do. And every day when you come in, you open up all your bowls and look at them and touch them and see how dry or wet they are, if they're still shiny, if they're sticky at all, or if you can easily, bend them, then they're not ready yet. If they're close, you can put them on the concrete block there, because that's where the wind snakes come through the most, and they'll probably be ready to trim near the end of the class. Okay?
Okay.
Any questions? No? All right, back to work.
Did we just make bowls last class and then you showed them how to
Do reclaim, yes.
do reclaim?
Yep, that's exactly right. Where is that? Okay, good. Oh yeah, I brought my hand truck home too.
Huh?
We got a cart in the office we could use too.
That would be good.
Yeah.